Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Hashtag Leadership. What's on your mind? Remember, we're a podcast to make you stop and think about your leadership journey by bringing amazing guests with amazing stories and experts in their field. So today we are speaking to Ryan Hartley. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, mate. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so this is really nice. Actually, I feel like I know Ryan already, but we've only just physically, not physically, even online met. I've been following a lot of stuff he does. I think it's amazing the message he's putting out there. He's got a fantastic podcast himself. We've got a mutual friend, Tommy Chapman, who was on the podcast a few episodes ago. So while I start the 20-minute timer, Ryan, would you just sort of tell the audience who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm Ryan Hartley. I'm from the southwest of England. Married my childhood sweetheart. We've been together nearly 20 years. We have an 8-year-old boy, 6-year-old girl, and I run my company Always Better Than Yesterday full time now. I ran it a few years alongside my former career in the police, and 6 weeks before the pandemic, I was fortunate enough to go all in, and we do a bit of coaching, do a bit of consulting. I'm generally people's cheerleader. I mean, people's corner, cheering them on, helping them be better every single day. And I love nothing more than just helping develop heart-centered leaders.
Yeah, amazing. And this is kind of coming into the category of just speaking to like-minded people. So I was really excited about getting you on. So let's go with the questions before I forget. So hashtag leadership, what's on your mind? What comes to your mind when you think about even the word, the topic, the umbrella term leadership?
For me, it's about it's a verb. Leadership is a verb. It is action. I think I come from a background in policing where it's too much associated with rank, position, status, hierarchy, the closest parking spot nearest the building. And for me, I think leadership is a verb, and it's the act of putting our own needs to one side to serve others. I think without service, there is no leadership. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult, which is why we'd have to first lead ourselves before we are able to effectively lead others.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And I can, obviously with my military background, I can have a little chuckle when you said that. I see that. So just staying with you personally, where do you think, whether it's on reflection or whether there was a light bulb moment at the time, where do you think your personal leadership journey started?
Well, the conscious moment when I knew the concept was leadership was my mid-20s. I'd just been promoted in my analyst role at the police for the first time, so I was responsible for other human beings, and I became a parent at the same time.
Ah, interesting.
So I was having experiences in the home, which was about the 3 a.m. night feed, sacrificing my time, my energy, my sleep to love, serve, and nurture this little thing. They depended on me to help bring the best out of them. And I'm having conversations at work where I'm trying to nurture skill. I'm trying to nurture team cohesion. I'm trying to help people feel like they can contribute to something bigger than themselves in the workplace. And I was very fortunate enough to have this side-by-side experience to help me shape that leadership isn't a position or a title. Leadership is an action, and it is about me as leader, not being served, but serving. And I think, so that was a crucial time for me at the age of, it must have been about 25. And then obviously with the framework of then, being a lifelong learner of leadership, I can look back and I can look at the lad, growing up, I was a class clown. I was a joker. And the way I kind of see that is that was a form of leadership, because I saw that I was someone that liked to help make people's days better in some way. Invariably, that'll be through my terrible jokes or my, silly behavior. But I've always had a heart for just relieving pain in people. I guess that comes from an empathic sense of, a number of male role models leaving my life at key points in my life. But also, my early days in the police, I was a 999 call handler. So I would experience people in their worst moments of their lives. And I've just come to just be really moved by this idea of helping people avoid or work through pain and be able to switch it, turn it into purpose in some way.
Amazing. So yeah, I love that. And you mentioned on the class clown, you just made me laugh a little bit. One of our very good friends that we went to college with had that title, and he's now in a very senior leadership role within the college we actually went to. And we were just joking about that yesterday. So yeah, that's really good. So can you dig in for us a little bit about your transition, if you like, your decision making through your career in the police, and how you got to then leave, and the decision makers have similar process in the military. So I'd love to know where you are now is inspirational, similar to myself. So it'd be interesting to find your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I'd got myself to a position kind of mid to brink of senior leadership within the police. I was working well above my pay grade, ready for the next step. Along with that development came, I've trained to be a coach, and unfortunately, the police didn't really realize the potential of coaching. I was just coaching people who were a problem or they wanted promotion. And I just knew that there was so much more to it. My wife had a network marketing team of about 300 women. So I used to spend my time like this in the evenings in an office just where I am now, coaching her downline. I must have coached 50 of her women over the space of a couple of years. All for free, probably for too long. I put some stats out last week that said I did about 174 coaching sessions for free. And many of the coaches out there in the industry said, "Oh, you've got a poor money mindset, bro." Yeah, I did. But I also realized that when I helped others get better, I also got better as a coach. And the self-belief that gave me that I was more than capable of helping people gave me some confidence, gave me a lot of confidence. But what I didn't have confidence in was my ability to make enough money to pay the bills. I got a 4-bed house, 2 cars, a wife, a lifestyle to maintain, 2 children. It's just a nice thing to do, isn't it? Oh yeah, just go be a coach, do what you love. But it got to a point where going back to work was too painful. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel appreciated. And actually, I had a lot of scrutiny and judgment about my social media presence. Who's Ryan Hartley? What does he know about leadership? Because I hadn't done 30 years of policing, but they misunderstood my heart, and it kind of triggered me back to being young, being abandoned. All that sort of stuff came back up to me. Who are they to judge me? I don't feel I've given my 12 years of my life to the police, and I don't feel like I belong. So I couldn't leave because I wasn't ready, but I couldn't stay. And I've got a very good friend over in America called Jonathan Darling. He's a very, very motivational guy. And he would say, "You need to burn the boats, man. You need to burn." I'm like, "Jonathan, I can't. I got a mortgage, wife, kids." But that's what I did. I got to a point where I couldn't keep going back to it. My heart was blasting out of my chest every single day walking into work. I was a mess. I was crying in the shower, just torn. What do I do? I can't stay, but I can't go. And I just handed my notice in. My wife, I mean, we'd been on a bit of a spiritual journey, faith journey, and she believed that, what God has put on my heart would be okay, would be looked after. And I kind of prayed outwardly for the first time in my awkward prayer life. I just said, "Big man," because I was a man of science before this. I just said, "Big man, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this where I'm supposed to be going?" And within 2 days, I was sent 2 references to a piece of scripture that I'd never read before. And it basically told me, it's above me in my office. It basically says that the Lord has plans for you to prosper, not to harm you, but to give you hope and a future. And I was like, right, I have no idea what's going on right now, but I'm listening. And with that, I've just decided to walk in faith and just trust that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, and doing what I love isn't a luxury. It isn't a nice to do. It's a necessity. It is, I've been given a gift for a reason, and it's not for me. It is for the people in the world who need it. And you only really get to experience that when you share what you love, and then you hear back how it's transformed and changed people's lives. I'm sure you'll have had the experiences. All it takes is one person to say, "That podcast absolutely blew my mind. That podcast, I needed to hear that." Or that coaching session transformed my relationship with X, Y, and Z. And then you know that this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just got my head down. I left. I sat here. 14th of February is my last day at the police. First day here. I just thought, who am I kidding? Why did I think I could do this?
What do I do now?
I was like, why do you think that? Why did you think? Because I'm a people person, and I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm not highly motivated by being a businessman. I just want to help people. I want to walk alongside people. I want to encourage people. But this is what kind of comes of it, is that lonely in the office. But I got my head down, tried to help as many people as I can. And as you know, 2020, you got pandemic. And I thought, well, that was the shortest coaching career anybody's ever had. I can't go back to the police. What do I do now? And instead, I just got my head down. I just, handed it over to God. I said, I'm going to serve my heart out, help as many people as I can. And sure enough, he sent people my way. He sent a lot of people my way last year. And I've been very grateful for anybody that's ever taken the time to trust me to be their coach or to listen to one of my podcasts.
Yeah, amazing. I was going to ask you about because the one thing that comes across in a lot of your content is love what you do.
Yeah.
And I hope that comes across with what I do. It certainly does with what you do. And it's especially, but I sort of can totally resonate with the whole making it work. Because I had exactly the same situation. I've had a lesson in money and value and worth, because obviously, similar to the police, I was in my military bubble of not knowing what it was. And I've had to learn, similar to you, family, mortgage, bills. And you're like, actually, you're loving what you do, but you've got to put a monetary value on it. And it still is a struggle for me right now. But it's a nice problem to have. And I'm surrounded by great people who advise them in the right way. Yeah. But can we go into just experiences of leadership in the I was going to say military then. I've got my forces mixed up. In the police. You mentioned in a couple of your stuff on your website about, and I picked up about the fact of learning from poor leadership, but also being inspired by good leadership. Can you just tell me a bit of your experience of that? Because it's quite a common thread that people pass on, that the self-awareness and situational awareness of that's not how to do it. It doesn't have to be a conflict at the time. It's a learning moment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's a right and wrong style of leadership. All I'm going to say is that there's a type of leadership that leaves you either wanting to follow or following because you have to. And invariably, policing relies too much upon following because you have to. The lazy form of leadership, the epaulets on the shoulder, and generally, the not nice to dos, they roll downhill. It comes down the strategic ranks to the people on the front line who have to do, and not a lot of stuff goes back up to say, yeah, how do you expect me to do that? When? How? Particularly from an enabling service. Invariably, the demands were either unreasonable or we hadn't been equipped to be able to deliver that within the timeframes. So I like to build teams where you feel like you can be treated like an adult and express your voice. And there were occasions when my voice was not only not listened to, it was actively pushed back to say, if you keep this up, you're going to come across like a problem. My job was to kind of protect my team in ways that they had the right level of work. It was prioritized, it was organized, and they were equipped to be able to deliver that. My professional advice to my leadership was that we can't deliver on certain things. We need to, and this will be up and down the country. You've given us more than we can cope with. I don't have the capacity and capability to deliver, so help me prioritize. No, all please. And so what does that do? It means that if I didn't prize courage and value courage, you're going to hear less from Ryan Hartley in a meeting setting. Because what's the point? I don't get listened to. And then secondly, what then happens? You lose trust, you lose commitment, you lose engagement, and just resentment starts to build. And all of a sudden, what goes from a culture where you go to work and you enjoy it, then results in tired, lethargic, resentful, burned out, poor communication, and ultimately a worse dad for Ryan Hartley's children.
Yes. Yeah, awesome. I was going to try and pick up on the parenting side of things, because I love the different stories and the different ways you can transfer learning from leadership in the business, in high performing sports, into parenting, it sort of breaks down barriers and gets people to see on a different perspective. Because whether you're a parent or not, brothers, sisters, dealing with smaller human beings, let's call it that. What sort of transferable skills can you see and have used in your sort of journey?
From parenting to leadership?
Yeah.
Love. It is as simple as that. And if the word love makes people feel icky about work, you're in the wrong line of work. Because true leadership requires a love for the type of work that you do, and it requires a love for your team. Because here's the practical reasons why. When you do what you love, and when you believe in something bigger than yourself, not just the position, the status, the money, you are less about self, more about the we. And leadership requires sacrifice. And the reason we don't get the leaders we deserve right now is because they didn't sign up for the service model of leadership. So when it hits the fan, they're the first one to self-preserve and self-protect. They're out of there. They didn't sign up for this. So you have to love what you do because it's bigger than you. It's bigger than any individual. And you have to love your team because they're relying on you for support, for safety, for security. When you show that you love your team, and when you show that you're committed to them as individuals and you take the time to get to know their hearts and their minds, and here's the thing, love is unconditional. And too many of our workplaces are on, trying to compete people against each other or trying to get people to justify their own performance. Well, that takes us away from our natural state of collaboration. If we want to get the best teams, when we show love and unconditional, and that you haven't got to jump high to perform, that actually we value your skills and your strengths, and we understand your weaknesses too, and we accept them, then people can relax and they can give their best ideas, and they can be vulnerable when things are not okay, and they can feel that their voices are heard, and they can show commitment. They buy into the we. Because if you create the cardinal sin of breaching that contract with them, it's like what we're seeing play out with government, hands, face, space, but it's okay for Matt Hancock to do. It's a breach of our human contract. So, love is very practical, both from a parenting perspective, because you just do it instinctively, unconditionally. But if you did that for your team, and this isn't about romantic love, this is about service love. And I was very fortunate enough to interview the guy who wrote the Love Languages book, 5 Love Languages, sold 14 million copies. And he wrote the book from a work perspective, and he called it the I can't remember what he called it. He renamed it. I'm disappointed he renamed it. He should have just called Love Languages at Work. It's something about their values, how people can feel valued at work, and you can apply that. So get to know your people. What do your people feel like love means at work? Sometimes it's acts of service, sometimes it's gifts, sometimes it's words of affirmation. When you get to know your humans on a human level, you can demonstrate just care. Yeah. And when you show them that they care, well, human beings naturally reciprocate. Yeah. Once they feel that's the kind of culture and the place and the environment that you create.
Amazing. So I love that. We've only got 2.5 minutes left. Okay, I want to just, if you could give some words of wisdom to the audience, and I want to sort of, you've done a lot of coaching, you've got a lot of podcasts. What do you see out there working really well? What can people really plug into their leadership journey to level it up?
Well, a lot of people, I say a lot of people, my wife, she gets quite anxious about the words always better than yesterday. She's one of these people that are, that comes from a history of needing to perform in order to receive love. Very transactional, very conditional love. The thing that I've come to the conclusion is that always better than yesterday is not the cost of entry. Always better than yesterday is the result of love. When we start to do more of what we love, we naturally want to do more of it, whether that's learning a new skill, whether that's looking after our kid and parenting, whether that is leadership in the workplace. If we love it, we're going to want to go back to it. It's going to get difficult. Life is not about not having it being hard. It's about choosing our hard and making sure that we put love at the front of it. Means that not only do we want to go back to it, but scientifically, our bodies are healthier. Our minds are clearer. Our leadership is more sacrificial and loving and connecting by nature. So that's it. Put love into your life, for yourself, for your work, for those around you, and it will ripple into every element of your life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, it might be a little bit different. It might be a change, but we know humans find that a challenge, but we're there to share that message and to get people to think and go, maybe that can make a difference. And little steps can make big differences.
And here's the thing. So men have an issue with the word love quite generally. I know it's a generalization, but you look at your colleagues in the military, they would lay down their lives for the brothers and sisters. You look at the police, they'd run into burning buildings to save people in danger. It's no different. You look at the fans in the Wembley Stadium, these men, grown men crying about 11 men kicking around a football. It's not that men don't love. It's just they don't like the word. We've been conditioned in some way. Find something in your life that you're so deeply passionate about that makes you feel like crying over Jack Grealish.
That's a great way of finishing a podcast, by the way. So listen, that's us done for this week's episode. So Ryan, thank you so much. It always goes quick when I get really like-minded people, which is the majority of the guests, don't get me wrong. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. So guys, if you really enjoyed that, make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow on the podcast provider, whichever one you're on, and make sure you hit the links below. Always check out, I nearly got your podcast in with the intro then. So always better than yesterday. Make sure you go and check out Ryan's podcast. I'm going to have all the links below. So Ryan, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you all next week, guys. Take care. Bye.